very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here again. We have a very exciting panel ahead of us, but before that, I have a very special privilege of bringing a special guest here this morning. President Bill Clinton is here with us, the 42nd President of the United States. I think that as I look out on this audience, every one of you in some way has been touched by the work that President Clinton did while he was president for 8 years and really showed what America could stand for, how we cared about what was happening in other countries, how we felt that America should play its role. And then, since being president, with the Clinton Global Initiative, President Clinton has continued his work of outreach to those throughout the world who can be helped and who want to give help to others. His most recent book is on the art of giving, which I think is very much the central aspect of President Clinton's life. He is somebody that has cared more about more people than anybody that I've ever met. And I have to tell you that for me, the greatest privilege was to represent the United States and the Clinton administration, both at the United Nations and as Secretary of State. I was so proud to sit behind the sign that said United States, and so proud to talk on behalf of the 42nd President of the United States. So it's my pleasure this morning to bring President Clinton to this podium.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the warm welcome. And I'd like to begin by saying how much I appreciate the fact that the NDI always brings people from around the world to the Democratic and Republican conventions. I think some years maybe we teach you more than you teach us. After the last several years, I'm not sure we don't have a lot of things to learn from others. And in any case, I hope you'll be very happy here. I hope you find this exciting, and I thank you for coming. I'd also like to thank my former colleague and friend, Ricardo Lagos, and all the people who are at the Club of Madrid, which I helped to get started a few years ago, so that those of us who don't have regular jobs anymore will not become completely useless to the world. And I must say he's shown great energy in putting our members to work. And I'd like to thank the Stanford Financial Group for helping to underwrite this. You have a distinguished panel, and they need time. I won't take a lot of time, but I want to try to just offer some thoughts to you as you go through this process, both the meetings that you're having and the proceedings on the floor of the Democratic Convention. For many years, I remember when I was president, I would, at Madeleine's urging, and when I was a candidate for president, I spoke at NDI meetings at our conventions. And then, you know, it was not long since the Cold War in 1992 and even in 96, and the whole idea was that we would all go around telling everybody, this democracy is messy, but, and the worst of all systems, in Churchill's words, except for all the others. And so you should see it, learn it, be a part of it, and it'll be exciting. And it was very interesting in the 90s to see all this new interest about it. Now I think that the topic of this meeting, you may vary far and wide from it, is the right topic, which is how to make sure democracy delivers. Now that will not be much discussed here at the political convention, because the political convention is about nominating a candidate in our system, introducing that candidate to the public in a new and different and hopefully more positive way, uniting the party and defining the battle plan, if you will, going to the November election. But as soon as the election is over, it will make all the difference that is, whether we can deliver. And I believe that, therefore, this is an important time for two reasons. First, at least in America, this campaign will go down in history as having our primary campaign, not only because it was a hard-fought and close race between Hillary and Senator Obama, but because of the infusion of cash in small amounts from Internet donors, and because of the explosion of blog sites and the incredible variety of sources from which people got information, disseminated information, made arguments, and actually conducted, if you will, both virtual and real campaign events. So for those of us who are interested in politics, this was an endlessly fascinating process already, and it's still got some twists and turns between now and November. But underneath that, and in the background, there is also a different story, which we don't want to unearth much on the convention floor because it's really not what we're trying to do, but which you should be mindful of, which is that all over the world, people are having trouble figuring out how to make sure democracy delivers. We used to be able to easily make the argument that democracy was better for human rights, for a sense of empowerment on the part of voters, and for a lot of the basic things. But now, look at the problems the world has. The world is first awash in inequality, in incomes, economic growth, healthcare, and education. Second, there's still quite a lot of insecurity, not just from terror, but from the prospect of weapons spread, from trafficking in drugs and people in arms, from systematic human rights violations, and now from the rise of some more great power or pseudo-great power politics in pockets of the world where countries have more money and more size and more muscle than their neighbors. So there is insecurity out there. And finally, there is the instability that comes with our knowledge that something really bad is going to happen if we don't avert the worst consequences of global warming. Therefore, if you take each of these three things, whether government can actually deliver becomes quite important. It becomes, in a way, the question. Suppose, for example, you're a voter, and you have candidate X and candidate Y. Candidate X agrees with you on everything, but you don't think that person can deliver on anything. Candidate Y disagrees with you on half the issues, but you believe that on the other half, the candidate will be able to deliver. For whom will you vote? This is the kind of question that I predict, and this has nothing to do with what's going on now. But I'm just saying, if you look at 5, 10, 15 years from now, you may actually see this delivery issue become a serious issue in democratic debates because it is so hard to figure out how to turn our good intentions into real changes in the lives of the people we represent. Therefore, and this is a really good panel, I think this is a subject that it may be starting on this stage, but I would like to see debated in a consistent way on every continent across all major issues for the next 10 years. When I set up my foundation, when I left the White House, and then we started the Clinton Global Initiative along with the UN, I had a very simple idea. I wanted to help people turn good intentions into positive changes. We'll soon be coming up on meetings to figure out how to find a successor to Kyoto. And I know there are people on this platform who have given a lot of thought to that. That's a very big issue. But here's another issue I'd like you to think about. After we got the Kyoto Agreement in 1998, which was not perfect, but the best we could achieve at the time, the first bad thing that happened was that the American government signaled its division. That is, Al Gore and I were for it, and the United States Congress was against it. The Senate voted against it, against the Kyoto Accord, almost unanimously, I think before Al Gore got off the airplane coming back from Kyoto. Now, I'm quite sure it's the only piece of legislation I was ever defeated on before I presented it to the Congress. And they had this old idea that now has been largely discarded. Oh, this would be the end of the world if we actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Economic growth would collapse. Well, you're in Denver and you drive around. I want you to look at this when you're on the street in an automobile. This city is one of the most energy efficient in its street lights in the world. It has a very high percentage of these lights are LED lights, and they save about $1 million a year on their electric bill because they have the lights that you'll be stopping at or going through, as the case may be, as you drive around. Okay, so it was a terrible tragedy, and a lot of you have bemoaned that for the last 10 years. But the second biggest problem, with graver implications for the future, because America's going to get back on track on climate change. We will partner with the rest of the world after this election. But the second big tragedy no one ever talks about is that apart from the former communist countries that couldn't help lowering their greenhouse gas emissions below their 1990 levels for the obvious reason of the economic collapse of the former Soviet Union and many other Warsaw Pact countries after 91, apart from them, only 6 to 8 countries are going to meet their Kyoto targets. Out of the 170 or so countries that signed, no one ever talks about this. Were all these other people, were they somehow stupid or corrupt or lazy? Were they dishonest? Did they never mean to meet the Kyoto Accord? Absolutely not. That is not fair. By and large, they were honest and intelligent and hardworking and well-meaning, but they could not figure out how to make their democracy deliver. So I want you to give a lot of thought to that. Well, I have a climate change project, and we just had a big meeting nearby in Las Vegas, Nevada, and talking about what America should do, and I suggested that we needed to have complete energy independence areas in the world that would prove that we could turn good intentions into positive change. Nevada's a state that could be completely energy independent. All the Caribbean islands could be. Our territory, Puerto Rico, could be. East Timor could be. Papua New Guinea could be. I believe Rwanda and Liberia could be in Africa because they're small enough. But the point is, we have to look for ways to try to prove that democracy can deliver. And energy is at the heart of all three of our big challenges. If you do the energy right, you overcome inequality and generate economic opportunity. You make all countries more secure because they'll be more energy self-sufficient, even though many will not be able to be completely independent. And you certainly have to do it to deal with climate change. But there are lots of other examples. I was just in Ethiopia, where I visited one of the communities where we're trying to build a health clinic. There are only one clinic for every 250,000 people or so in rural Ethiopia. In Lesotho, where we work, it's one for every 10,000, to give you an example. So we're going to build thousands of those clinics. It's really important because otherwise the promise that we have out there that you have affordable life-saving AIDS medicine and affordable life-saving malaria medicine is an utter fraud because it's there in theory, but it's not there in fact. Now, this is not nearly as interesting as what you're going to see on the stage at the convention and what you see in your own countries if you're having an election. But once you get elected, it will make all the difference. Is there some way to deliver what it is you're promising? And so I have decided to try to be, for the rest of my life, in whatever way I can, a resource on how to make democracy deliver. And I leave it to others to take the stage to, get the votes and do all the things that are really exciting. I still love politics. I'm quite excited to be here. I thank you for giving me one more excuse to show up at my party's convention. But once you can't run anymore and you have to decide what to do, it seems to me that today everybody in my position in the world should be literally obsessed with this. Yes, we have to have a new successor to Kyoto. But this time when we adopt it, we have to have some theory of how we're going to actually meet the targets. And some system set up to help people who sign on to do what they promised to do. I will say this parenthetically, everyone that's going to meet their targets or get close to it has been richly benefited by it. If you look at Denmark, the UK, the German experience under Mr. Fisher, and even since then, the work that the Norwegians are doing, both in Norway and around the world, the Swedes, that everybody that's taken this seriously has really proved that there are significant economic benefits for trying to turn the tide on climate change. But most people still don't have a clue about how to do it. And if you want, you can go on our website and get a copy of this rather detailed plan that I released in Nevada, just to see all the reasons that America could not have reached its Kyoto targets even if we had signed. And I have to tell you, I was oblivious myself 10 years ago to about half the impediments in our way. So I'm not blaming anybody else. I was ignorant of a lot of those things. So I hope you'll have a great time here. We're honored to have you in the United States, and as a Democrat, I'm honored that you're here at our convention. It has enormous importance for all of us and for the future. But I hope you will pay special attention to this panel, because otherwise we're all going to win these elections, hold these offices, go around with our titles for the rest of our lives. But the reason we do all this is so we can change the lives of ordinary people and save the planet for our children and grandchildren. And that will only happen if we dramatically, and I do mean dramatically, increase the capacity of democracy to deliver. Thank you very much.